Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are live again this week here on Veteran Nation. And joining me as always is my esteemed colleague from the Great North. He's back. He's no longer on assignment. TC Pearson. TC, how you doing?
To say always joining you as always because I missed last week.
As usual.
So
Usually you do. I am having
as
some
usual, I
weird
missed.
camera
What do
things
you?
going.
Oh no, Skipper, that's not a weird camera thing. That's how you always look.
Yeah. Don't adjust your dials, folks. That's just me.
Um, Real quick, by the way, one of the Discord groups that I'm in, been interacting with some other veterans, and one of them told me today, and I figured you might be able to answer this for me, and being a Marine vet. She said that the tinted windows on the bus taste like raspberry.
I will have to take her word for it. That's because all the ones I
So
tasted were blueberry. See,
I just wanted also for those of you who have been watching the last few weeks, we've had um, Heather Hedge on. We talked about her son,
yep,
uh, Smitty,
Caleb.
and then the last 2 weeks before, the previous 2 weeks, last week when I missed, we've had the Casertas on to talk about their son Brandon, and uh, Heather is out in D.C. As of yesterday, and she's for lack of better terminology, she's redressing her grievances to the the people who should be, watching out for military active duty and reservists and whatnot. And she stopped by a military memorial today, a street memorial, and she was kicked out. I just got this.
Really?
It's breaking news. She was kicked out of the memorial because she had Smitty's poster board trifold. Breaking news, folks. Um, she had her trifold poster board that she had put together with his information, and they kicked her out.
Do we know which
And
memorial?
she's been sending, huh?
Do we know which memorial?
Say that again. I don't have all the information as of right now. Heather's feeding me the information. She's sending me videos. I'm going to be breaking those down and putting them up on shorts on my channel, or up on shorts. Be
Yeah,
putting them.
YouTube
I don't want
Shorts.
to put them on
Minnesota
shorts.
Black Robe Regiment.
Uh,
Everyone, subscribe today.
so I'll be putting those up. She's already said yes. Go ahead. She does her old TikTok thing, and
And she just
she's
was.
younger than I am.
She just did a friend of our show, Andrea, who does the
Hmm.
decompression chamber. She was just on there, so check out Andrea's channel. Very good show. Friend of the
We
show.
we got to get Andrea back on.
Yeah, no, we keep saying that, but yeah, we really do, and we need to
Well,
to
no,
what
we do need to get her on
we
because
do.
you always try to be funny, and Andrea just is.
Oh, speaking of funny, for those watching, I do have elevator pitches for today's show. So,
I'm
uh,
sorry. What's that? What? What? Oh yeah, I'll be right there, folks. I got to go. It's
no,
an
no,
emergency.
I think you're gonna love them. In fact, I'm doing something different
You
with them.
say that you say that every time.
I emailed Tawan before the show movie posters. I actually put production value into this.
Juan's sitting off screen going, "You did? You sent him to the wrong Juan.
If not, I can resend them
Which
to him.
which which one? Which one
Oh,
Juan?"
he's got them. He's giving me the thumbs up. So we'll
So,
we'll be able
Skipper,
to
go
go ahead.
ahead. No, you will be able to what?
Oh, we'll be able to baptize by fire our guest today. He'll get the elevator pitches, so he gets the full veteran nation experience of dealing with my jokes.
Oh, I'm sure he's excited. We were just preceded by the Council of Colonels, and
Hmm.
they had Matthew, I think his name is, on from Epic Times. They were, which is a sponsor of
Right
Right
America
America
Media.
Media.
Yep.
Yeah, they are a sponsor here of Right America Media,
Promotion code
and
RAM.
right, it is indeed, and it's 8:12 Eastern, so we're coming up on Juan's bedtime because he is an Air Force colonel. So, I mean, somebody's going to be coming by pretty soon to wheel him out of the room and tuck him in, and the best way for people like Juan and anybody really to get a good night's sleep is to have a good pillow. And we just
Absolutely.
we do happen to be sponsored as well, not just by Epic Times,
Father's Day is
promotion
coming
code
up.
RAM, but yes, Father's Day is coming up. So if there's a special father in your life or someone you'd like to smother with a pillow, we know where you can go to get a pillow, and that would be My Pillow, which is right here in my home state of Minnesota, by the way.
Tomorrow.
And there's a code for that, isn't there?
Yes, promotion code RAM. And tomorrow,
That's
I
so weird.
believe it's either tomorrow or Thursday, is Flag Day. So, folks, pull out your American flag, pull out your ensign, let it fly. It's coming up. Got dusted off.
Put it up and put it up the right way, folks.
Yeah.
Considering everything that's been happening
Not the
in
way
the
the White
United
House has
States, let's
flown it.
make sure we're flying the American flag in the. Yes, that's what he said is tomorrow.
And Andrea pointed out to me that at one of the
Be
monuments in New
flying our
York,
flags in the.
they
We
were.
should be flying our flags in the distress position right now, but.
Andrea pointed out that at one of the monuments right there in New York City, they did have the American flag flown properly, but they put the pride flag up, but they had the POW MIA flag subservient to it. That's not the proper flag etiquette. American flag above all others, everything else at the same level.
So you found a guest for us, since we've wasted 8 minutes of his life that he's never going to get back.
I didn't find him as
Which
much
is
as he
funny.
found
Which
us.
is the number one comment. Which is the number one comment that we get on our YouTube channel. You've wasted so many minutes of my life that I'm never going to get back.
That and hey, when you gonna pay me, loser? But those are
Well, we are a
memes to me.
nonprofit.
We are, yeah.
We
We have
are a
zero
nonprofit,
profit.
and you need to stop meeting people on social media, Skipper, if you're owing them money for things. No one needs to know any more about that.
It's my local librarian, and I told her I returned that book.
Heather has two mommies.
No, the Turner Diaries. People who know that book are laughing.
You should bring our guest in. You should bring our guest in before it's too late.
We should. Joining us today is he's an Air Force veteran, Greg, the flying auditor. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
Oh, we got you just fine. Welcome to the show.
Excellent.
Thanks. For anybody who
TC, I want to say I was listening to your video. I was stationed in North Dakota, so I used to go down to the cities all the time. And when I heard you one year ago, right when you were getting ready to leave, as you were being escorted out per se, I listened to and watched your video. Tell you what, I'd have used some choice language that you didn't. You were very eloquent in what you said about that.
Which one of those? Because that's.
It's the one. It's 1 year ago. I think you weren't out yet. You were going out, and you were just.
Oh,
you were given
the
two
school board meeting? Was that the school board meeting?
No. I've got it. I was listening to it. And I'm going. Yeah. You sound like the guy that you read. You know James Madison out of Florida.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's
I know.
cop.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I talked to him.
Now I'm gonna
and
have
he got railroaded.
You're gonna have to send me that one because I don't even. I've been escorted out. Well, asked to leave politely from several places in the last couple of years. So
this is from your JOB. when you were a cop.
Wait, right, but yeah. So you were watching me talk about that.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
What's the title? Sacrificing my career for liberty. I am no longer employed, and the gloves
Oh,
are
yeah.
off.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. That was. Oh, you thought that was nice? You.
Well,
I
I'd have used
got a
some,
lot
I'd
of
have used some
flack.
flowery. I'd have used
I
some
got a
flowery
lot of
language.
flack for how. I got a lot of flack for how
Oh,
nice I wasn't in that video.
oh! If somebody said you weren't nice, they're morons. You were extremely nice. You chose your words nicely. I'd have probably dropped more f bombs than you could have shook a stick at.
You
You
know,
just got
Well,
railroaded, guy.
we've done FOIA
that
requests.
brings up what you. Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah, we've
Skipper.
done FOIA requests on the sheriff to get some of the documentation of what they did to TC that made him leave his job. And I'll just say, folks, that when we get those documents and we're able to air the whole story, it's unreal the level of corruption that he had to deal
Yeah.
with.
My pack, just the report from the internal investigation attorney that the private attorney that I hired out of the Twin Cities, just that report is 45 pages long,
Hmm.
and
Holy cow!
uh,
Wow.
yeah, just the
Well,
report, and I don't even have all the documentation. I can't. They still haven't produced any of the audio from the interview that she conducted or any of that, which they're obligated to give me. It's mine to have. So according to state law. So yeah, which brings up, you're the flying auditor, and
that's what
so
I called
like
myself.
is that hard to do? Is like audit people's books while you're flying, or
Well, yeah, it is. But when you put autopilot on, I think the colonel would know. You know, set that autopilot,
well,
and you're good to go, Bubba.
he flew
Isn't that right, Colonel?
F-111s, so there I don't was there autopilot on the
Didn't
F-111? I think
didn't
they
you
could
always
float.
have autopilot? Yeah,
I mean, I've
I'm not a jet jockey. I fly a pusher.
Why do I have the feeling that all the Air Force guys here involved at the show today all have at one point said, Jesus, take the wheel.
When I was
I've been
stationed
on
up in
Air Force.
Minot, I got fortunate by some of the choppers before they quit allowing enlisted guys to be in the right seat. I never could
I
understand. They'd
thought
let some guy from a senator jump in and he could fly, but oh no, us lowly enlisted guys, we couldn't jump up front anymore. I think I got out 35 plus years ago, so I'm an old dude.
that's not all that old, really, but you age better than most of our guests.
It's that Brazilian blood in me, and probably some of my libations, naturally
You're
pickled.
I was gonna say you're well preserved. So no, anyway, you don't actually do that kind of auditing. I was
No, I
perusing your
tell you,
channel, and
okay,
I, I
go
was
ahead.
perusing your channel, and I saw that you had a couple of videos up from Blind Justice, um, and then you had one of you going into a post office. So this seems like this is kind of a new perspective for you. Like you haven't been recording this, doing this a lot. And I don't mean that as
Well,
an
let me.
accusation. I'm asking.
Oh no, that's and it started January. I had a YouTube channel up for a decade. I've got a wildlife site. What I do professionally. I did a YouTube video way back in the day, and didn't really pay much attention to YouTube. It was just like out of my mind. And I don't know what made me start looking around, but I'm old enough to where there were no smartphones. I came in when no PCs were around per se. So I'm an old coot. And when I saw some videos, and if you carry you're a type A, I'm a type A. I had a dog, a badge, and a gun. Different world. You're out in the world with civvies. I was out with the military guys, and I always kind of chuckled in the era I was in. most of the people I pulled over were trained killers, and some of them I won't cuss. They were jerks. And when you have a 120-pound Dobie jump out beside you, I've only had one guy get stupid, and he was on PCP. So the dog took him down, and then we took him down. But, when I saw some of these videos and I saw the egregiousness of the Leos out there that were just stepping on people's toes. I mean, all of us that were in the military took an oath. And I think most people that took an oath forget that oath and what it entails when you look down through the Bill of Rights. And I pulled out some old stuff I got in dog school, 1978, 77. I mean, we had the Fourth Amendment. I mean, in depth in that time case law, what we had to do a search, yada, yada, yada. And what I've discovered, and I talk to a lot of Leos. I've got a lot of friends that are, state troopers and what have you.
I used to
And
have
I live
a
in
lot
a
of
little,
friends.
well, I live in a little podunk town out in San Angelo, Texas. And there's a young man out here. And I think what really got me is he got arrested. He had a Trump hat on. He was in a Walmart. And some lady accused him of being drunk. He had his 3-year-old son with him, and he wasn't. And the local PD came in and absolutely just rammed him into a cooler demanding his ID. And I'm thinking, who the hell are you guys? You can't ask for this guy. He doesn't have to ID himself. Mm-hmm. But they arrested him. Well, he did in 1983. He settled out of court, made some money on the deal. And, he's got, stuff on the back of his vehicle that are F the police and yada, yada, yada. And one of the local sergeants just was a jerk. And I watched the interview, the IA interview, and I kind of chuckled at the lack of, well, I didn't know that. When you hear a guy who's been in law enforcement the number of years this guy is in, I didn't know I couldn't do that. Number one, on a private. Number two, you can't, 32.08 here in Texas, you don't have to ID unless you've committed a crime. Plain and simple.
There's no state that requires it. None. It's a misconception.
The number of videos I watched a lot of these videos and there. I guess with the smartphones that are going on and all these younger auditors that are out there, I'm telling you, it's amazing the number of people get arrested just for exercising, the First Amendment and their freedom of press, and that got me hooked on to. So you mentioned blind justice. Well, blind justice, name's Mike Nelson. He's a combat vet. He's a Green Beret. And he wouldn't tell me until I pulled it out of him. Good guy and just a wonderful guy. And if you watched any of the videos of the VA personnel stealing his digital eyes, stealing it and walking out and then hearing the after effects. And I got so incensed. And as a type A, you watch that postal deal on mine, that was an afterthought. I was so PO'd at those guys. They'd lost so much of my stuff, lost all my tax returns I sent in. And there's no accountability. And that's what got me. So I'm going to be leaving in about, 24, 30-something months. We're going to be moving over to the country of Panama, my wife and I. And we're going to be living there. And then we're going to be moving to Thailand. We're going to be traveling the world. And I can't go anywhere if I've got an FBI record in any misdemeanors or felonies. So that took the auditing because of my persona, my personality. I don't care who you are. I'm trained like you are. I've trained some of you guys. Even though I'm an older guy, I still keep in real good shape. I know if somebody grabbed me, even though all the attorneys, mine included, said if the Leo grabbed you, you got to let him do what you want to do. And I'm the type of guy that says, you grab me, you get hurt. I'll take you down. But that's not the right thing. It's like, it's a payday. Most of these guys, it's a payday. Ching, 5 years later. So at Blind Justice, I watched him and all the stuff he went through just aggravated me. It got me mad. My blood pressure went up. And if you've not gone to his channel and looked, if you're a veteran and you watch that and you don't get pissed, your wood's wet. My other friend up in Maryland, Baltimore, is a Coast Guard guy. His name is Kevin. He is the angry vet. This man is charged with 8 counts of wiretapping in Baltimore because he took his phone out and was recording out of self-preservation. And to me, I've been in the VA system for 30-something years, well over 35 years, and I didn't know I had that available. And one of the things I've told folks, I've talked to Vietnam vets, I've even talked to Korean vets, I did not know I had the ability to get my ratings. I broke my neck early in my career, and I thought, well, and a friend of mine called, and at that time there was a cutoff. If I wouldn't have applied, I wouldn't have got anything. Mm-hmm. And Vietnam vets, guys, hey, they got spit on, baby killers, yada yada yada. I had dinner with a guy who was a Vietnam vet. Actually, he was in missiles in the Strategic Air Command, so he was in 65 era. So we were like kindred spirits. He's an old farmer. So we sat for 3 or 4 hours and just BS. And he didn't know that he could get all this stuff. And I said, well, here, I gave him all the links and told him what to do. And that's what prompted me to want to do this. And I'm going to, once I get my plane up and running, I'm going to do that. Fly up there and meet with some folks. But I have to watch what I do. I might have to take back seat because I'm just one of those types of personalities that you touch me, you get hurt.
I do have to say, because you were coming on the show, I was a little bit inspired this week, and we do our merch and stuff to support the nonprofit. But because you were coming on, I was like, I wanted to do something flying. So we have a new shirt, and if anyone watching wants to go to VeteranNationFoundation.com, they can see our new shirt, and it's just a plain T-shirt, and it says, "In all fairness, the flight attendant told me to familiarize myself with all the safety features." So because you were coming on, I was like, well, I got to think of something. That's what I came up with. So everyone can check that out. But sure. I've been following more the Angry Vet than Blind Justice, but I have been following the Angry Vet's story, and yeah, it is absolutely disgusting. He was the one who was that was VA security. It wasn't even police officers, correct? Yeah.
VAPD.
Yeah. Oh, VAPD. Yeah.
and the full way. Better installation.
I'm happy to see that there's so many veterans now taking up auditing because the First Amendment and the Second Amendment are very important to us. All three of us here on today's show, we've all done audits in one form or another. Mine were all pretty much, I didn't want to do them. I was put into situations where I knew I had to record. Once being attacked over my service dog, and I would say the other ones were where I was being harassed on a Marine Corps installation. And then TC, it was his last one that he did was a really good one. So all the fans watching, I'll tell you about that one. You can go into Minnesota Black Robe Regiment and watch. He was actually assaulted by a president of a college up in Minnesota. Hard part,
and by an officer.
Yeah, and by an officer as well, yes. And the hard part that we find for those of us who do stand up for the First and Second Amendment is when our rights are violated, there's not a lot of attorneys out there who are willing to take the cases. And if there's one thing I can
they just don't give a damn.
Yeah.
They don't give a damn because they're part of the system. They don't give a damn because they're part of the system.
TC, here's the reason. I was going to, seriously, I contemplated because I'm able to do so because of my disability. I can get all this stuff paid for. And I actually talked to my guys and said, hey, why don't I get my JD? And I thought about that long and hard. I'd have to get probably 3 more years and I could get a JD. The problem with constitutional attorneys, civil rights attorneys, is the payout is long. And I've got friends, I've worked with a lot of JDs, you name it, and I've worked with them. And, the liability attorneys are the guys that make just a boatload of cash. They can make 3 or 4 cases and they'll make 10 years of an income. Civil rights attorneys just a little bit different because the payout takes so dadgum long. Mm-hmm. I've been meaning to reach out to the attorney up in West Virginia, civil rights attorney. I think he's the only one on YouTube that I've seen that other than there's a lady named Catherine McHenry out of Florida.
Yep.
She is an attorney, but Yeah, she's a good gal. She's a fireball. Holy cow, that
She
lady's
used
a
to be in
When
Michigan,
I've
but
got,
things got so bad for her in Michigan, she had to go to Florida. So,
and they've got crap happen with her in Florida now, with her little
yep.
podunk town. I mean, I've got a place in Florida, and when I was down there about 3 months ago, I was going to try to make some time to meet with her and her husband, just so because I wanted to meet. I said, you need to get your JD down here. I'd hire you, because she's just that type of a personality. But it's channels like you guys, what you're doing with your video cast. I found Skipper. I found you just as I mentioned in email, just by choice, just by chance,
Hmm.
because the
Yeah,
algorithms
no
of
one no
YouTube.
one ever finds Skipper by choice.
Well, the beauty is, the I wish there was I thought this Vet TV. I thought that was going to be a great venue, and it's a comedic deal. The angry cop is one of the stars. He's got a channel that he goes and beats his chest and hollers, and good guy. He's made his fame doing that. But and I even sent an email out to him saying, hey, is there something you can do that's on a serious note about these vets that are being abused and what the VA is not doing for our guys out and the guys that are homeless? I mean, I get so PO'd when I heard all these hotels that are kicking veterans out for all these illegals. And look, I'm a broker. I'm a real estate broker. I have a friend who died that did a lot of commercial real estate, owned hotels, motel, all that. I understand money. I understand all that stuff. But boy, when you sit there and piss on us guys who raised our hand to say, I do at the risk of my life, and for all these people that are coming in illegal, and I'm Brazilian, I'm half Brazilian. My mother was a legal immigrant. She came here legally in the 40s. So when I hear this, it just incenses me. I mean, I'm 300 miles from a place where there's 3, 4, 5,000, 10,000 a day coming across that border. There's 6,000 illegals that come in. But I digress. The big thing I wanted to deal is this VA deal. This veteran. I know. Are you part of the VA, Skipper?
I am, yeah.
Okay. Have you had issues?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I currently have, since November 16th, I have a request in for a new therapist through the Loma Linda VA that has essentially just been ignored because they don't want to give me one through community care. They want me to go through one of theirs. Well, I've been there, done that, and I said, no, I'm not changing my preferences. And they essentially told me, well, you're not going to get one.
Well, one thing I've discovered is when it comes to anything dealing with the government, especially the USPS and the VA, trying to find a hierarchy that's accountable and that will
Mm-hmm.
answer an email is almost impossible. The blind vet, when his digital eyes were stolen, I was pissed. So what can I do? I was here in Texas, so I ended up, thank goodness, Mike put all the contact information in his description on his YouTube channel. So I called the cell phone for the director, and he called me back, and it was a polite message. I wasn't negative, and he called back and he says, "I called you back because I got hundreds of phone calls that were negative, death threats, and all this." And I go, "Well, that's not me. I don't know you." But he was a typical politician. As we all know, the acronym acrostic ROAD. This dude was retired on active duty. He was speaking BS. It just came out of his mouth. If I could have seen him, I'd have smacked him a couple of times to wake him up to reality. He was not playing with the full deck. Even though his words were eloquent, he was just the perfect politician. And when I called Mike, the at Blind Justice, and I said, "This is what this dude told me." He chuckled. He said, "They're going to use that every daggone time."
Mm-hmm.
And I even reached out to that man's boss, crickets. I filed a discrimination claim through the website on Mike's behalf, but I was doing it also. Crickets from the VA. That's the issue. When I've had one of my doctors, I'm in a West Texas area. I've never had any issues in 30 something years. Never. I've always been really good. Got here, my doctor is from Mexico, and when he sent email out through secure messaging, you couldn't read it. Now I speak Spanish. You could not make sense. It's like he was smoking crack. And I complained. I said, this guy's an MD. And so I'm now with the PA, and they know me as the troublemaker over there now, because last year they sent me a document in an open envelope with everything about my personal life in it. Social Security, DOB, everything. Went through the USPS, through their system, unsealed. And they gave me grief, and they wouldn't even, they said, well, what are we supposed to do? I said, seal the damn envelope. It's nothing magical.
That's,
so, that's.
I don't want to seem down on the VA, because there are some VA medical systems that do a really good job. We've had Kelly, a Navy veteran, on the show who has been fighting with the VA for years. She moved to a different VA system. All of a sudden now the surgery that she's been trying to get her out of pain for the last several years, she's now going to get next month. And it's just where you go, if they want to work or if they don't want to work.
That's true. I found out. I just in January, before PACT Act came out, and if all of you guys are younger than me, you probably might qualify for the PACT Act. And if you haven't looked into it, look into it, because there's a lot of presumptive claims. And so I ended up putting my 1988 initial claim that I got. I was rated, and I never got it until recently, because guess what? The VA didn't tell me you could get your C file. Go figure, your claims file. So I got that, and I read it. I go, this doctor lied like a rug. None of that is what I said in 1988. And they denied me on some things. Now I broke my neck, and it's not going to get any better, and I'm having all kinds of issues with it. So when I filed it, it got approved in 3 months. My rating doubled. And now with the PACT Act, since they're going back 80 years, they're like 400 or 500,000 in arrears. And so what's unfortunate that I've discovered in this is, if any chance I get, I will talk to vets and say, have you done A, B, and C? Mm-hmm. I don't care how old they are. I've got friends that are World War II guys. They're proud. They're the generation. And some of these guys, are so proud, they say, well, I don't need it. Well, your family might need it. I've got friends that just, they make very good incomes. They're very well sustained and all that. And I said, are you paying your medical insurance? Well, yeah. I said, let's say you get $1,000, $2,000 a month. How much principal do you have to create $2,000 a month in spin off? Mm-hmm. What's the lump sum? 10%, 200 G's. So when you break it down like that, I said, by the way, it's tax free. So I try to help guys as much as this. Here's what you do. Here's where you reach out. And
Skipper keeps trying to talk me into it. But then every time I talk to another vet, all I hear about is how bad the system is. And I'm like, guys, not a great pitching point. Like you got to throw me a strike once in a while, because.
Well, how long ago? When did you get out?
Oh, 94-ish.
You were in the Gulf War?
I was in during the Gulf War, yeah. I joined to go to the Gulf War because I was stupid. And then I missed the Gulf War because my timing was off and I'm stupid. So then I got out after the Gulf War because Clinton got elected and I'm not completely stupid. So.
Well, I encourage everybody. That's free money. It's tax-free money. You earned it. If you've got issues from basic or any of these things, you deserve it. And just don't blow it off. I mean, that's tax. And the hardest people to convince is the Vietnam guy.
I was a paratrooper. I screwed my legs off. I used to love to run. But then they showed me an Air Force. Then they showed me an Air Force transport aircraft, and I said, you know what? What's the fastest way off of this thing? Because I don't trust them to land this.
The biggest tragedy that I find with veterans is that so many benefits are tied to your disability percentages. So I'm 90%, I'm not 100. There's some things I can't get, but for the most part, I can get most everything. But what they encourage by doing this, like there's some things that you get at 30%, some things you get at 50%, uh, some things you get at 0%. Like here in California, if you're 0% rated, your kids can go to a California state school for essentially for free. There's limitations and stuff like that, but if you live in,
Skipper locked up.
oh, you got me.
Well, not the first time he's been locked up.
Okay, there we go. But if you live in
Okay.
North Carolina and your kid wants to go to California State, California State San Bernardino, or one of the CSU schools, at a 0% rating, your kid can go essentially for free. But there's so many other things they tie to your disability percentage, and then when you get, like, I have claims that are, you talked about the PAC Act. I was the safety inspector aboard our base. I had to inspect the burn pit. I did it one time with an undersecretary of defense, and as I'm standing there talking to her, guess what happens? We had a pen flare go off because it had gotten tossed in the burn pit. But I have that exposure. I've been denied very legitimate things. So when I hear stories of veterans, claiming things that they don't really have, I really don't blame them one bit, because you're going to have to fight one way or another. And if you can go for something easy, go for something easy, because everything is tied to these disability percentage, which I think is just a mistake. In fact, uh, I have written, we're trying to find a board game company that we can sit down and actually show this to, but I have written a board game about VA benefits, about what veterans go through. And when we actually start getting to the point where we're developing it, I'll get that game and we'll play it on the channel, because it's every veteran I've showed it to and has heard like some of the stuff, they're like, "Oh my God, that is hilarious! I know someone that happened to, or that happened to me." Yeah, this is absolutely true.
Um,
We're just
well,
going to
you
call it
don't know me.
Snafu Fubar. That's what it is.
That's
Snafu
a good one.
Fubar,
Hey,
isn't it?
that's a good
Snafu
one.
Fubar.
You
Because
you
that's
might
true.
want to
I
talk
mean,
offline for that, Skipper,
Okay,
because
yeah,
if you're
happy
looking
to.
to get it out there,
it's
I've
it's
got
too
some
it's too
extremely wealthy friends that are vets that own. I've got one friend that's got developments in the tune of 700 million,
The
and I just talked to him yesterday.
I
So
have the whole
these guys
game
are
written out.
serious about
I have the whole game written out. I've got the rules, everything. Like, you have to get disability percentages, primary and secondary conditions. You roll the dice to see which ones are going to be taken. But I'll tell you, the biggest thing I need right now is an artist to help me do the board.
Oh, sure. Well,
Skipper. You need so much more than that.
we'll talk. We'll talk. We won't do this, but yeah. But TC, seriously, there's a channel at Combat Craig.
Yes.
He's 20 something years, and I studied all of his stuff. And then there's another guy named Dwayne Kimball, I think, and he was a VA Raider. He's a retired Air Force or Marine who retired from being a VA Raider, and he talks about, he gives you the M21, which is what the Raiders use. So I've told everybody, you have to make this somewhat like you're studying for a college exam for yourself. You get all your files. I've got a thick binder, and
Yep.
I'm drawing net charts. This goes, the left knee goes to the right knee goes to, and there's so many things that when you read in, when you go for your exams, I'm a kind of a positive guy. But when you go to the exams, you can't be positive. Well, how you feeling?
Yep.
Like crap. Even though you might be bursting out saying I'm fantastic.
Don't shave,
But
be
again, I've told.
hungover, don't shower that day. You want to look like absolute crap when you go into your compensation appointment.
Yeah. But so,
Skipper, you can't
when we're
open doors
talking
like
about
that
all
for
these
me.
vets, and I appreciate you guys putting this stuff together. This is something that I wish would get. I'm amazed that Kevin at Blind Justice has not made the press. I've been reaching out. I've got a friend of mine who's in the corporate media, and it's taken a while for him to find a vet that's an investigative reporter that will take the mantle and expose it. But he said, I have to have more than one case. So I gave him Kevin the Angry Vet. I've given him, there's Atlanta, who is J-Town Press out of Florida. There's also Dr. Sean Berry, who's a PhD out of Florida. He's a combat vet. He's been arrested multiple times in the VA, like Nona out of Orlando. I found 2 other channels. One guy with a service dog.
He's Sean Berry. He's the guy he's the doctor, but he's got like a really long beard and kind of looks a little scraggly. Is that the one?
That's not
because there's another doctor that's a vet that kind of the guy has a PhD and he puts his stuff out, and I'm like,
I've not seen him, but I've just discovered there's just a lot of this. The VA is, depending on where you go, there's good VAs and bad. My doctor out of San Antonio told me, and we became very close friends. He was telling me that when you change systems, there are bonuses that the directors get, 3 Gs for every time you change. And like I said, the accountability, them offering you solutions it's gotten better. But I would say, TC, don't give up. I mean, it's still, unless you're just so extraordinarily wealthy, you don't care, but you earned it, dude. You served. And that's something that you deserve, especially being a paratrooper. I'm at a World War II
mandatory
paratrooper,
spending,
and this is no kid. Yeah, and this guy had made so many jumps in World War II, he had problems with his back end, literally. You're talking about those old round parachutes from World War II. Hitting that down at velocity, you can imagine what happens to the old poop chute. This man had problems, and he was all short, little. He was a colonel actually, and he was telling me. He said, I walk funny, I talk funny, but they pay me good. So I just tell folks, I said,
my issue is I have a hard time. It doesn't matter. It's neither here nor there. But
they're gonna love you at the VA, They're gonna love you.
Oh, no, they won't, because everything will be on video.
They don't like that. You're gonna walk away with some more content.
Know your CFRs really well. Know your CFR when you walk in there.
Know my what?
Code of Federal
the
Regulations.
CFR, the federal.
Oh,
that's on the wall in there. I can send you, Kevin. I've got all that stuff, all the documents. But when I go in, I got a little podunk bill here, and when I'm going to get some surgery done, I'm gonna have to probably go to San Antonio or Dallas. But I'm gonna take my gimbal and my iPhone, and I'm gonna walk in, and when I get ready to do my stuff, they're gonna tell me ask me what I'm doing. I said, well, this is for YouTube. We're gonna memorialize what you're gonna do to me.
There is one thing, because we are a nonprofit now, there is one thing I would ask you to do, and ask all of our viewers to do, because we're trying to help veterans here. We're also trying to get donations. So for veterans, I'll help you for free, but if you're a civilian, I would only ask that you donate to our nonprofit. And that's if you're looking for a federal job. I will be happy to help you, and I've got a couple other people who have agreed to help me. We'll help you build a federal resume through USA Jobs. So anyone who's looking for that service, don't go pay a company $300, because that's the going rate. Donate to a charity where you actually get a receipt back, and we'll help you get a job. And if you're a veteran, just reach out to me. I'll help you along.
Just so everybody understands, Skipper's not promising that you will get a job. He's saying he will help you because he knows the paperwork. He's not promising you a federal job.
It is a very big process.
It's not a promise, because I am the vice president. The last thing I want to do, because trust me, you sue me, you ain't getting anything. You might get some chickens, because that's all I got. So,
hey, good Minnesota chickens.
What's that? What was that? That didn't
Minnesota chickens.
No, that sounds like somebody who watched too many episodes of Fargo.
That sounded like. I was stationed out in North Dakota. Torsk and all that Scandinavian stuff. Even when I went down to the cities, I remember when I went down to the city, Jesse Ventura was mayor of Brooklyn Park. That's
Yeah,
back
well,
in the day.
we
Now
saw how
he's
that
kind of
turned
like,
out for Minnesota.
yeah, boy,
Mhm.
boy, did we ever.
That's where my
I
ex-wife is
got
from.
to I got to introduce Jesse Ventura at Defend the Guard last fall after we had Scott Horton from the Libertarian Institute and antiwar.com came up to speak at our Defend the Guard event, and I introduced Scott and Bull Johnson, the former candidate for 7th Congressional District House Representatives here in Minnesota, sponsored the event, asked me and somebody else to MC, and I said, when we I know Jesse thinks he's the headliner, but we're putting Jesse up after Scott Horton. Jesse doesn't know what he's getting, and Horton kept going on and on and on and on, and I was loving it. And by the time Jesse got up there, he had like 3 minutes, 5 minutes or something, because Horton went on. So it was great. It was wonderful. It was amazing to just not like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not real proud of that moment in Minnesota history. So I want to touch on the auditing aspect that you brought up, and what we're you know if you're and those of you who are wanting to know what Skipper was talking about, I have my channel, my personal platform. The videos are up there. I mean,
He
I
sells
have
coffee too.
hundreds of videos. I do. I sell. It's really good coffee. Um, you will not be that laid back if you drink too much of it. I promise you. But I have my own stuff up. My channel's not an auditing channel per se, although I have some auditing spots on there, and there will be more to come. I work a full-time job, so it's hard for me to get to the offices of the state when they're open.
Sure.
But I want to talk about auditing from the perspective of a veteran, like as yourself, and some of the stuff that Skipper's done and others, because for lack of better terminology, there's almost this understanding between the vet community and the military community and law enforcement world of, oh, well, we've got this mutual respect for one another, and vets swear the same oath. Basically, they're tacitly the same oath that law enforcement swears across the board, and there isn't even a pipeline from the military world to law enforcement, which I think, by the way, needs to stop. I absolutely think that needs to end. In fact, I think there needs to be a moratorium on any military veterans going into law enforcement for at least 15 years after they've retired or gotten out of the military. That needs to end for a lot of reasons. But one of them is the disenfranchisement that they will experience if they really take their oath seriously in the law enforcement world anymore. But why is it, as we look around, what we're seeing, and I keep wanting to call it, what's your first name? I've lost it.
Greg.
Greg, that's what I thought.
Greg.
I was going to say Greg, and I'm like, I'm going to say the wrong name, and that'll be fodder for Skipper for years. So, Greg, when you look at it from your perspective, we are seeing an uptick of veterans getting involved, and we're not talking about left wing cop block, Antifa types. Right. We're seeing constitutionally minded, patriotic types that are getting involved in First and Second Amendment auditing. And there is a huge disconnect now between law enforcement and veterans who are doing this stuff in general. I have my theories and my, for lack of better terminology, presuppositions as to why that's happening. What do you see, Greg, as far as what do you think is causing that?
I think it's generational. We've got the Gen X, we've got Gen Z, millennials. I'm a baby boomer. So every generation mentally has a different thought process. Fortunately, you're talking about who's taught all this stuff for years. I was an instructor teaching all this. So what I've discovered, and I've asked that question to all the vets, and it's because something happened to them. There was a pivotal moment where they got pissed, and with the smartphone, that's your new way of putting them on the spot and being accountable. And one thing, as a former Leo yourself, TC, one thing if you've not done, especially because there's several auditors up in MN. Most people don't, as a pilot, and Juan will probably agree to this, that you have to have a checklist. And when you go out and you start to do this, you've got to think of the process. If this happens, what am I going to do there? What's my contingency plan? So a lot of these guys are doing it off the cuff, and what they forget is, are they going to take it all the way to the map? What does that mean? That means if you go into a USPS, number one, that's a federal facility. A civilian Leo cannot come onto a military installation or he'll get shot. I can tell you that flat out. High-speed chase or not. I mean, I did that for years. I don't care who you are. I used to train with the sheriffs in Bexar County. Now, USPS is a federal entity. There has to be an agreement. Other than that, it's the U.S. Postal Inspector that's the PD. They're the ones. So what most people don't even think about is, let me send an email or talk to the postmaster before I even start this undercover and say, do you have an agreement with the local Leos if there's something that goes down on the USPS property? So you're covered. Mm-hmm. Most people, you hear this regurgitation. It's a federal, I can do it, you have no authority here. I've seen one video recently where the guy actually knew for a fact that the people, that the Leos that came in were breaking federal law. He even told them this. He says, you do not have an agreement with this postal center. You need to get off this federal because you're breaking a federal law by carrying a weapon on this facility. And these kind of blew him up.
Yep.
He said, either you get off. You saw that?
Yeah, I saw that one. And the cops, the walk of shame came real fast after that because they were right. And he had already reached out. Juan's getting ready to bring up a video from an episode from that January episode, but it's not the one with the university president and the law enforcement officer. It's actually a conversation that I have with two young law enforcement students inside of the event center. And I want you to watch this. And we've got a little bit of time. We started a little early. It was great. The guys from Council of Colonels made way for us sooner, which was, wonderful. Normally they run long because they almost have some sort of, lately, I don't know what Juan's been feeding these guys over at Council of Colonels, but there's been some spicy conversations going on over the last couple of months. And TC loves it because now I'm not the only one that rants. And so, but I want you to watch because here's my experience with what I watched, and just I want people to understand too that when people refer to me as part of the law enforcement community, an LEO, I was a deputy inside of an adult detention center. I was a sworn deputy. I wasn't a correctional officer per se. I did not work for the Minnesota State Department of Corrections. I worked for a local sheriff's office. But I took the same oath. I had massive amount of responsibility, oftentimes more responsibility than even a street cop would. A lot of them would flat out tell you, I couldn't do what you did. It's a completely different beast, but I take the same oath. I saw a shift in myself immediately because I started to recognize problems with the entire criminal justice system, from the streets all the way to the prison system. There's a massive problem. But I noticed something else from younger people, and this video will show us what that is. It's not real long, but I think you'll see it. I'm not going to say I won't say anything, obviously, but Juan, if you want to roll that.
You guys are going into law enforcement?
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question, if I could. What's the primary responsibility of law enforcement in the United States? What's your primary responsibility of law enforcement in the United States? What's the number one thing that needs to be protected?
People.
What's the one thing that citizens need protected the most?
What do they need protected the most?
Yes. How about their liberties? Okay. where are those liberties delineated?
Where they what?
Where are our liberties delineated? How about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, right? So when you take that oath, when you get that first job, you take that oath. Do you know what you're swearing your oath to?
Uphold the Constitution.
Uphold the Constitution, that's right, young man. So if you are asked to enforce a law or enforce a policy that violates the Constitution, what's your duty in that respect?
To uphold the Constitution.
So if you're told to remove somebody from public property who's exercising their First Amendment, would you do it?
They're exercising their First Amendment right.
Well, they're exercising the First Amendment, so they can't really be hurting anyone, right? Keep that in mind when you go forward, and do yourselves a favor.
Have a good day, sir.
Memorize the Bill of Rights, especially the First and Second Amendment.
I don't. This is where we're at. It was pulling teeth. These are students in in criminal justice taking law enforcement training. The very first thing that should come out of their mouths is protect and defend the rights of the people, because that's what the oath is to. And her response when I said, "What if you're ordered to tell somebody stop whatever it is your speech, stop your speech?" And her response is, "What if they're hurting someone? Not physically, but with their speech." Here's a kicker with that.
Words
that
hurt.
young lady, yeah, words hurt. After this video, my former employer, the sheriff of Olmsted County, Kevin Torgerson, with the Minnesota Sheriff's Association, awarded that young lady a scholarship, free money to go to law enforcement, continue her law enforcement education. Awarded her a scholarship for that, not for that video, but this is what the law enforcement world wants from people that are coming into it now. They do not care. They do not care.
It's a
They
job.
want these.
Paycheck.
That's all it is. And I
Now-
ran up hard against that in the last couple of years of my career with the sheriff's office. I ran up very hard with that. And that's why I think there is such a big disconnect now, where you're starting to see former law enforcement and basically disgruntled law enforcement, guys who were around for a long time. You can say what you want about the good old boys club and law enforcement and nepotism from years ago, but a lot of them still stood on the Constitution and understood that. And like you said, you had Fourth Amendment training, training on the Fifth Amendment, training on the First and Second Amendment. That's missing now. It's not there anymore. They do not train it.
Well,
And
here's
for
the thing.
vets, that's the problem.
Right.
We see this and we go, what did we sign up for if you're out here willing to follow whatever order you're given, no matter how much it violates the natural rights of men as they're delineated in the Constitution and in the Bill of Rights?
As a Leo, when you were inside where you were at, I had a good friend that was also a deputy sheriff, and he also worked in detention, and he used to take the guys up to the judge. And he was a cut up like I was, and they had one real bad guy that was coming up, and he was a veteran also. And the judge says, "Well, what do you think?" He's talking to my friend who was a cop. He says, "What do you think about this guy getting ready to come up?" And my deputy friend reaches over, puts his hand over the mic, and he says, "Can you say you're Sparky?" Because this guy was a bad dude that was coming up for the judge. But as us veterans know, we were told that if an order was contradictory to the Constitution and we felt was egregious, we weren't to obey it.
Mm-hmm.
You had a duty not just don't obey it. You had a duty to not obey it, and to call out, no matter what the rank of the person was, to call out that order and say that is unlawful and it's unconstitutional, sir, or sergeant, or
Now, when you went into law enforcement, did they express that to you?
not in those. No, it was. No, never. That never came up. The concept of the Constitution, any of that, throughout my academy time, never ever came up. It was never a topic. And I just had Steve Friend, one of the FBI whistleblowers, on here a few months ago, and he and I talked about this because he started out with as a street cop, and then went into the FBI. And I asked him how many hours of training on the Constitution did you take? He goes, none. You ask every cop in the United States today, outside of their own work and studying that and knowing it, ask them blindfold off, complete anonymity. I won't say your name. I won't put you out on blast. You ask every one of them who's willing to really talk about the problems with the institution of policing in the United States today, from the local guy all the way up to the federal level. They'll tell you there is no training on the Constitution. It does not matter to law enforcement anymore. And they're looking for people like that young lady. That's what they're looking for. Because
Zombie.
it's not
Find zombie.
they just want rule followers who are willing to do whatever they're told. And Minnesota was a wonderful bad example of that over the last 3 years, especially.
Well, I tell you guys, we've got a lot to do, and I appreciate you guys, giving me a little bit of a venue with you folks. It's good to know y'all for sure.
Do you see it changing if the more people go out and do this, even accidentally auditing? Do you see this beginning to change, or do you think that the powers that be within the law enforcement career field are going to double down?
I think.
What are you laughing about, Skipper?
It's a two-way street. Depends on what part of the country, number one. And number two, the judiciary. There are some crooked judges. And like I've got a lot of... it's so broken, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they say the reason why you mentioned earlier, why aren't there enough civil rights attorneys? It takes too long to get payout. And it's very expensive to take a case all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court doesn't necessarily have to listen to you.
And they want victims that are like an attorney. A friend of mine has some attorneys lined up to take on some of this law enforcement corruption, abuse of people, First Amendment, Second Amendment type things here in Minnesota. And they watched my video and they're like, well, he wasn't passive. Basically, he wasn't passive enough.
Who wasn't passive?
Yeah, I wasn't in the video from January, and I'll try and connect with you away from here on social media or whatever, and I can link you those. But the attorney's response was not that I brought it on myself, but that I wasn't victim enough. And this is what they all want. That anybody who knows their rights, who knows the Constitution, knows the Bill of Rights. Yes, exactly. I'm a victim. Yes, exactly. They want any attorney that's willing to tackle it. They want it to be a situation where you didn't do any pushback at all, none, and that has become the norm.
I would tell most auditors out there, because I've watched a lot of videos, for a lot of them, I would just say, use the Fifth Amendment. They talk. I've seen so many who just talk too much, and it's like, just use the Fifth Amendment.
Well, yeah, you don't answer questions, and you look at the situation from January that we've been mentioning already. The eye-opening moment, and Juan watched it, and Skipper, you've seen it, where the cop turned around and looked at me, the one that was giving me the most trouble, looked at me and said, "No, you're the problem. You're getting exactly what you came here for. And all of these normie cons that were behind me, all these, the Republican, conservative, back the blue, law enforcement, rah, rah, rah. They'll give to the Police Benevolence Association. I warned them what it was going to be like. And the collective sigh, the gasp, you could hear it on camera. The collective gasp when he said that to me was the sound of the wind being sucked out of their sails, because they could not believe that someone would respond, that a cop would respond that way, because they were being victimized, and it would have gone even worse for them if I hadn't been there and stood my ground. I had a woman come up to me after the fact, after the event, and hugged me in tears. She says, "I didn't believe you before this. Now I cannot believe. I can't believe it, but I believe it because I witnessed it, what it's like." Skipper, I know that you're itching to get your elevator pitches in front of Greg. So I want to apologize, ladies and gentlemen, ahead of time. I need to apologize ahead of time to everyone for what you're about to experience, and to our esteemed guest. I can't apologize for what Skipper's going to put you through, but I can say that I sympathize. I do sympathize. And Skipper, you need to connect me with him away from here, by the way. So
Absolutely.
Give me his contact information afterwards.
So Greg,
Hey, Skipper, and when you say, hold on, when you say what you say, once you say it to me, I only give you credit once. Then it becomes mine.
Oh, you won't want these. You will not want these. You will.
Well, I mean, you don't know me that good, TC. I probably do.
No, trust me. Every
Okay.
one of our guests that have been subjected to this have said to me in private later on, "You do this a lot?" And I'm like, "I try not to."
This is okay. So my mind is always working, and I found that if I don't write something down, it'll just keep coming back up. So I started writing these things down. I started actually on Twitter, but then I brought it to the show. I give elevator pitches for movies, TV shows, books, whatever I can think of that I think Hollywood should be doing. And, then you and TC will be able to rate my pitch. Today we're going to do it a little bit differently, because I do have some where I'll give my normal pitch, but I have 3 where rather than me give a pitch, I have a movie poster for you guys that I actually put in some production value. So Juan, do we have them? Okay, so we'll go right into the movie posters, and you should be able to understand what the movie's about just from the poster. And they're all military themed. I'm going after a military audience with these movie posters.
Oh, Lord. I'm bracing myself.
This one's clearly a horror movie. Would you watch it?
Anything with the house, probably not. Yep, that could also fly the army. I like that. I like that one.
So, do you think Hollywood should make these? Any of these?
Yeah, they should actually make the Flightline one. M1 tanks also would fit in there.
MASH, but on a flight line. So I'll give you the ones that I have written out here. The first one is a TV show called Animal Hospital. It's a hospital run by pets, and literally we just have pets who we CGI, and we have them talk, and they're the doctors and nurses.
So the VA.
But with
I'm a dog man, and I could probably go.
I like the idea of it. The next one is actually a reboot of sorts. It's a TV series rebooting the character, and he's in the public domain, so it's not a problem, of Zorro, starring Pedro Pascal, Paul Rodriguez, and Astrid Burgess Frisbee. Obviously taking place here in California. I think that would be a really good cast.
I have no clue who those people are, so sorry.
And this next, well, you will know who the next one is. Tom Arnold and his daughter, who's played by Rebel Wilson, successfully used squatters' rights to live inside of their local Walmart. And that's not even the weirdest thing in this North Dakota town. It's called "May I See Your Receipt?"
Oh.
And those are my pitches.
This doesn't have any.
The reason why our show is nonprofit, why Veteran Nation is nonprofit, is because no one wants to sponsor this. That's what it is right there. No one wants anything to do with it.
Some of the Minnesota, North Dakota blending, not a Fargo theme. You know, I'd have to think about that. I could come up with something that would fit the land of 10,000 lakes. Is that right? Up in the MN.
The land, it's the people's state of Marxisota, the land of 20,000 taxes.
Oh, well,
just in the last legislative session.
It's going downhill, I tell you that.
Our super fan Sarah says when she has the money, she's going to sponsor us. So let's all make her rich.
Or you could just give me the money. I love you. I love you, Sarah. I do. I love you. You know that. I mean, she's a local gal to me, so I do. I love her to death. But like, if she's just going to sponsor us, I'll just send me the money. Because TC needs it right now. Because pretty soon he's going to be filming Veteran Nation from the back of his Traverse at this rate. So,
well, if you end up going homeless, come down here near me. I can take you to LA. You can live outside of a tent. And here, interesting fact about California: you can't open carry unless you're camping. So I do want to arm the homeless people in Los Angeles because it'll be way more interesting.
So same with San Francisco too, right? I mean,
oh yeah, it's
you heard those legal. 2 big faulted.
Hey Skipper, don't you have plans for something coming up in November?
We do. We are nonprofit. We are planning a Warriors Cruise. It's going to start on Veterans Day, so November 10th to the 17th. We're going to Mexico, the Mexican Riviera, and the prices start at $860 per person, 2 people to a room. And if you
go back and start over, we lost all your audio up to Riviera.
So yeah, we're doing a Warriors Cruise. So November 10th to the 17th. We are going to the Mexican Riviera, and it's going to start off at $860 per person, 2 people to a room. If you want to go on it, just send an email to warriorscruise@gmail.com, Warriors with an S. And,
Skipper's working on a website for this, I hope, because I don't trust you to answer all the emails.
Well, the emails actually, we have an auto reply with the Royal Caribbean frequently asked questions, also with a lot of the rates for the different various rooms, and also we'll then put people in contact on how to secure their room from there. But yeah, it's
and just a reminder to everyone too, as well, that Skipper said he was working on trying to find someone to sponsor me to go. I'm not a big water guy, and when I say I'm not a big water guy, I drink a lot of water, and I don't mind being on little water, but I don't like being on big water. And if you've been following any of the cruise stuff lately, things are not ending well for people who don't want to be on big water. But all that aside, that's just my own personal hang-up. I watch Shark Week too frequently. But what I did say is, whoever Skipper does find as a sponsor for me, I am turning my berth over to our friend Heather. To be able to get away. So if we do find a sponsor
I've been sending
that wants to
query emails. I've been making phone calls. So if anyone knows of any veteran-friendly companies who might want to sponsor a veteran, let me know. I've been emailing various sectors of the private industries here in the U.S.
I'd like to get Heather on there, and then if we could after that, I'd like to get the Caserta's on there as well.
And if any company does sponsor a veteran, I'm willing to offer them free advertisement on this show.
Yep, absolutely.
Great.
So, it's just so people know, it's not like we're booking the entire ship. Okay, it's
Not this ship.
It's not going to be like only 5 people want to go, and so you're going to have the whole ship to yourself. It's one of those where there will be other people on the ship, which could make this a lot of fun for you. Really, a bunch of veterans getting together, talking about their experiences and the PTSD they discovered in a bar with a bunch of other cruise ship people. That would almost be worth being there with the camera. Honestly, that might actually be.
We will be
worth it.
doing PTSD workshops on the cruise, so hopefully people will feel better, have some camaraderie, and some tequila.
And if you don't have PTSD before the cruise, if Skipper tells any of his jokes, you will have PTSD by the end of the cruise.
I do not own a Speedo yet, so PTSD,
Oh.
you're bringing it with you.
TMI. TMI.
Skipper's going to be required to watch or do the entire cruise in his Las Vegas tuxedo.
This is not the Love Boat. I don't think we're going to have, what was his name? Gavin.
We're getting the wrap it ups. So here as the enlisted guy, I'm going to have to go ahead and tell you as the commissioned officer that we have to end this now, sir. We can't. This can't keep going on forever.
I think we've plugged everything during today's show, so I don't think we have anything else to plug. I do want to say thank you to Greg, the Flying Auditor. If you're watching us on YouTube, go immediately and subscribe to his show as well. He's right there on YouTube. So thank you for joining us. And for all of you who joined us in the chat and who are watching, thank you for being worth serving.